It is not a question anymore. The mammoth is coming back. The only question left is what happens when it does. In 2021, a company called Colossal Biosciences was founded with a single stated goal: de-extinct the woolly mammoth within this decade. They have raised over $225 million. They have a working timeline, they have the technology, and the scientists leading the project are not fringe researchers chasing a dream. They are some of the most credible figures in genetics working today. The mammoth is not coming back the way Jurassic Park suggested. No amber, no dinosaur Dina. What is actually happening is stranger, more precise, and in some ways more unsettling than the movie version. But here is the part that almost no coverage of this project explains. What Colossal is building is not a mammoth. It is something that has never existed before, and the distinction matters more than anything else about this story. To understand why, you need to understand what de-extinction actually is. Because the word implies bringing something back. What the science actually produces is something different. The woolly mammoth went extinct approximately 4,000 years ago. The last isolated population died on Rangel Island in the Arctic Ocean, a dwarf subspecies that survived long after the mainland herds were gone. 4,000 years ago. While the Egyptians were building the pyramids, the mammoth was still alive. Most people place the mammoth in the deep prehistoric past. With the dinosaurs, with Smilodon, with animals that existed in a world unrecognizable as ours. The mammoth was walking the earth while humans were writing, while civilizations were rising. This is not ancient history, this is recent history. And the Dana that makes de-extinction possible survived precisely because of how recently it died. Frozen in Siberian permafrost, preserved for thousands of years with extraordinary fidelity. Mammoth Dina has been recovered, sequenced and compared against its closest living relative, the Asian elephant, with a precision that was impossible 10 years ago. Here is what that comparison revealed. The mammoth and the Asian elephant share 99.6% of their DNA. The genetic difference between them is smaller than the difference between a human and a chimpanzee. They are not distant relatives. They are extremely close cousins, separated by a few 100,000 years of divergent evolution. Which means de-extincting the mammoth does not require rebuilding an entire genome from scratch. It requires identifying which zero. 4% of the genome produces the mammoth-specific traits: the thick fur, the fat layer, the cold-adapted hemoglobin that allows blood to carry oxygen at Arctic temperatures, and editing those specific genes into an Asian elephant genome. That is what Colossal is doing, gene by gene, trait by trait. The technology making this possible is called CRISPR-Cas9, a gene editing tool that functions like molecular scissors, cutting the DNA at a precise location and inserting or deleting specific sequences. It was developed in 2012. It won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020. And it is accurate enough in the hands of the teams Colossal has assembled to make targeted edits to a living genome with a precision that would have been science fiction 15 years ago. The edits already made include cold-adapted hemoglobin functional in lab conditions, subcutaneous fat gene sequences, multiple fur-related gene expressions. The basic architecture of a cold-adapted elephant is being assembled, gene by gene, in a laboratory right now. The first mammothant, the working name for the hybrid animal that will emerge from this process, could exist within this decade. An animal that looks like a mammoth, moves like a mammoth, tolerates Arctic temperatures like a mammoth. That is not a projection. That is the stated, funded, staffed timeline of a company with $225 million and a Nobel Prize winning technology. But here is what the coverage almost never asks. What happens after it exists? because the plan does not stop at creating one animal. The plan is rewilding, releasing mammoth herds or mammoth-elephant herds into the Siberian tundra to restore what ecologists call the mammoth steppe ecosystem. And the ecological argument behind that plan is one of the most compelling and most dangerous ideas in conservation science right now. The mammoth steppe was the most widespread terrestrial ecosystem in Earth's history. It stretched from Spain to Canada across the top of the world during the Ice Age. It was maintained by megafauna mammoths, woolly rhinos, cave lions, giant deer grazing, trampling, and cycling nutrients through the landscape. When those animals disappeared, the steppe converted to the modern tundra, frozen, unproductive, and sitting on top of something that terrifies climate scientists. Permafrost, the Siberian permafrost, contains more carbon than all the world's forests combined. It is frozen, it is stable, and it is thawing. As global temperatures rise, the permafrost is releasing methane and carbon dioxide at accelerating rates, a feedback loop that, if it continues, produces warming, that produces more thawing, that produces more warming. Climate scientists consider runaway permafrost thaw one of the most dangerous tipping points in the entire climate system. This is where the mammoth argument becomes something larger than de-extinction. The theory, supported by a growing body of research from a project called Pleistocene Park in Siberia, is that large grazing animals stabilize permafrost. They trample the insulating snow layer in winter, exposing the ground to cold air and keeping the permafrost frozen. They break up the moss layer that traps warmth. They cycle nutrients that promote grass growth over moss. Experiments with existing large animals at Pleistocene Park have shown measurable permafrost temperature differences between grazed and ungrazed plots. The mammoth in this argument is not just a de-extinction project, it is a climate intervention. And this is where the certainty runs out. Because the same scientific community that supports the permafrost theory also contains serious researchers who think releasing engineered animals into a complex ecosystem we do not fully understand is one of the most reckless ideas ever seriously proposed. The mammoth steppe ecosystem that these animals maintained no longer exists in its original form. The vegetation is different. The other megafauna are gone. The predator community is a fraction of what it was. Releasing a large, cold-adapted, socially complex animal that has not existed for 4,000 years into a modern ecosystem and expecting predictable outcomes is an assumption that ecology, the science of complex systems, does not support. We do not know what a mammoth will eat in practice. We do not know how it will interact with existing species. We do not know whether it will carry or be susceptible to modern pathogens. We do not know what its social structure will be, because social behaviour in elephants is transmitted culturally through generations, and a mammoth raised in a laboratory will have no mammoth culture to inherit. That last point is one that almost nobody discusses. Elephant behaviour migration routes, feeding strategies, social bonds, responses to danger is not instinctive. It is learned, passed down from mothers to calves across decades. An orphaned elephant raised without older animals does not develop normal behaviour. It becomes unpredictable, dangerous, ecologically non-functional. The first mammoths will have no mothers who are mammoths, no grandmothers, no herd memory stretching back through generations of Arctic experience. They will be genetically close to a mammoth, and behaviourally unlike any animal that has ever existed. Released into an environment their genetics are designed for, but their learned behaviour is not. And then there is the question that the de-extinction debate almost never reaches, the one that ecologists and ethicists have been raising since Colossal was founded. If we bring the mammoth back, what do we owe it? An Asian elephant is one of the most cognitively sophisticated animals on Earth. It has a theory of mind. It mourns its dead. It recognizes itself in mirrors. It forms bonds that last decades and shows measurable grief when those bonds are broken. A mammoth-elephant, carrying 99, 6% of the same genome expressed in a cold adapted form, will almost certainly have comparable cognitive complexity. We are proposing to create an animal of that cognitive complexity in a laboratory. Remove it from any social structure it would naturally belong to. Release it into an unfamiliar ecosystem, and call it conservation. The ethics of that proposal have not been resolved. They have barely been seriously examined. So where does that leave us? The mammoth is coming back. That is no longer speculative. The technology exists, the funding exists, the timeline is this decade. The question is not whether it will happen. The question is whether we have thought carefully enough about what we are actually doing. We are not bringing back the mammoth. We are creating something new, an engineered animal carrying the genetic signature of something extinct, released into a world that no longer contains the ecosystem it evolved for, without the cultural knowledge that made it functional, into a climate intervention experiment whose outcomes are genuinely unknown. That animal will be extraordinary. It will be unlike anything alive. It will be, in some measurable genetic sense, the closest thing to a mammoth that has existed in 4,000 years. And it will face a world it was never built for, alone without its herd, without its history. We have been here before. We know how that ends. The mammoth didn't disappear because it failed. Its world disappeared beneath it. We are proposing to bring it back into a world that is disappearing again. The question is not whether we can. We already know we can. The question is whether we have thought clearly enough about what we are bringing it back into.